Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Neville and welcome to Selective Imagery. This is Jeff Neville from Selective Imagery. And before we actually get into looking at any stills or videos that I took, this is about the Red Wolf exhibit at Brookgreen Gardens, which is located just south of Murrells Inlet in South Carolina. Now, Brookgreen Gardens is a conservator of South Carolina's indigenous animals, and they opened an exhibit called Red Wolf Ridge at its Low Country Zoo. It's a 4-acre habitat that houses 3 male red wolves in cooperation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Red Wolf SAFE program is what they're involved with, and SAFE stands for Saving Animals from Extinction. So what is the status of the red wolf? Well, it was first listed as threatened with extinction under the Endangered Species Preservation Act of 1966 in 1967. It's currently listed as an endangered species under the Endangered Species Act of 1973. The population estimate as of August of 2023, known collared red wolves in the wild is only 13. Estimated in the wild is 23 to 25, and red wolves that are in the SAFE program in captivity are like 269. So from 1973 to 1980, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service began trapping the wolves in the area to prevent extinction of the species and establish a captive breeding program with the intention of reintroducing the species into the wild. In the early 1970s, Point Defiant Zoo and Aquarium, in association with the service, established a captive breeding program using 14 red wolves. After numbers continued to decline due to human persecution and habitat loss, the red wolf was subsequently declared extinct in the wild in 1980. In 1984, the captive breeding program was approved by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, hereby shall be referred to as the AZA. And part of the red wolf species survival plan, known as the SSP program, it provided oversight for maintaining a healthy and genetically diverse stock under human care. By this time, there were approximately 63 individuals in the SSP population, and the program was actively growing the population through coordinated efforts of the SSP partner facilities, making reintroduction efforts possible. Recovery efforts in the wild began in northeastern North Carolina with the establishment of what is referred to today as the Eastern North Carolina red wolf population, and release of red wolves from the SSP population on Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge in 1987. In 1990, the service established an island propagation site for the red wolf at St. Vincent National Wildlife Reserve an isolated island off the Gulf Coast of Florida. The role of this site was to propagate red wolf pups in a somewhat controlled but natural environment that will provide them with a wild experience as juveniles for the purpose of being strategically translocated into the wild. In 2018, the red wolf was named one of the Association of Zoo and Aquariums Saving Animals from Extinction Species. The SAFE program focuses the collective expertise within AZA-accredited zoos and aquariums and leverages their massive audiences to save species. The Red Wolf SAFE program, their goal is to support conservation efforts for the species by maintaining a healthy and viable population of red wolves under human care, growing education and awareness efforts, aiding research vital to supporting recovery and management of the species. Before the SAFE program, the red wolf population under human care, aka the captive population, was overseen by AZA's Species Survival Plan, as we mentioned before, known as the SSP program. Management of this population under the SAFE program is the same as it was under the SSP program. Captive breeding saved the red wolf from extinction and is an essential component of red wolf recovery. Past releases of red wolves from the population under human care into basically that controlled area in North Carolina helped it reach a peak of 120 animals in 2012. Although captive red wolves are located throughout the country at different red wolf safe facilities, they are managed as a single population. They're routinely transferred among facilities to breed according to genetic management objectives to help maintain the health and the diversity of an increasing population. In 2016, the service made increasing the size of the red wolf population under human care a priority. The service stated it would provide resources and work with its partners to expand space capacity. To date, the service has provided $771,000 through fiscal year 18, 19, and 20 Recovery Challenge grants for the construction of additional red wolf enclosures, and to date, 30 new enclosures have been built or funded. As of February 2023, there are approximately 235 red wolves in 49 red wolf safe locations and facilities across the country. In the 2021 to 2022 breeding season, 28 breeding pairs were established and 46 pups and 13 litters were born, of which 29 survived, adding to the SSP population. With additional space capacity and to increase the population, the number of breeding pairs for the 2022-2023 breeding season increased to 40 pairs. Currently, there is only one wild population of red wolves, which is in eastern North Carolina, which encompasses 5 counties of the Albemarle Peninsula in eastern North Carolina, consisting of Beaufort, Dare, Hyde, Terrell, and Washington counties. So it's wonderful that Brookgreen Gardens is now one of these safe facilities, and they have 3 males, as I mentioned earlier. They're all brothers, from what I understand. They are going to exchange one of the males for a female red wolf with the intent of obviously breeding red wolves in this environment that's protected, and then reintroduce the red wolves into the North Carolina region. So I think this is fantastic. Anyone who cares about preserving animals, um, throughout the country, um, and turn things around. Um, many zoos, and it's not just red wolves. Obviously, there are many zoos that have adopted having programs to um, have an environment where they could successfully breed species that are near extinction or threatened. And you know that's something that maybe people don't realize that zoos do. And if we didn't have them, and we didn't have some support from private organizations, donations from people who care, some federal grants and things like that, eventually some of these wonderful animals and creatures, whether it be from the ocean or from land, would cease to exist and go away and would not be here for other generations to enjoy. So I applaud them for their efforts, and I highly recommend that you go, if you're in the Myrtle Beach area on vacation, of which there are literally probably 1 million visitors a year or more, is to visit Brookgreen Gardens and support them. Okay, you're going to enjoy it. It's the country's first sculpture garden, and has the largest collection in the world of figurative sculptures by American artists in an outdoor setting. It has the Low Country Zoo. As we're talking now about the Red Wolf exhibit titled Red Wolf Ridge. It's a wildlife preserve. It has boat rides. You could see where rice fields used to be, the story of slaves who used to have to gather the rice. And there's historical areas within the park. There's wonderful flowers, hummingbirds, birds of prey, lots of things to see. Like I said, it's well worth your visit, and I highly recommend that you come. And we are now going to proceed to mostly some still images from this new exhibit, and hopefully that will entice you to want to plan a trip down here to help support, Brookgreen Gardens and help their efforts in trying to increase the number of red wolves in the wild. So let's move on to the images. Thank you very much. So here's where we get to enjoy some photos of these wonderful wolves. And they're magnificent to look at. The ones that you see right now were taken with the Nikon Z9 and the 800 PF lens. Subsequent images, and I'll let you know when we hit those, were taken with the Z9 with the 180 to 600 zoom that came out. The wolves' behavior is interesting to watch. They're obviously in a fenced enclosure, and many times they run along the edges of the fence. So if you want to take a photograph of these wolves without it looking like they're in a zoo, you have to wait until they eventually start to migrate towards the middle, and then you can get some nice images where if I didn't tell you I was at a zoo, you wouldn't necessarily know that I was at a zoo. But I have no problem with taking zoo pictures, and I think if you're presenting images on YouTube or social media of any kind, or entering a photo contest, you have to be honest about where you got the shots. I don't believe it's appropriate if you try to say it was in the wild when it was not taken in the wild. Now here's where wolves and dogs have a lot in common. So the wolves don't have squeaky toys, obviously, so one decides to find part of a branch and put it in its mouth like a toy. Well, it doesn't take long for another wolf to say, well, I want that toy too. And at first it somewhat starts off playful, but as we know, if you have two dogs in the house and they want the same toy, which is normal, it doesn't always stay playful for the long haul. And here you can see the one is just like side by side trying to get a grip on that piece of wood, and eventually, and I intentionally darkened this image up of the two of them both having their mouth on that piece of wood. So that leads to what we all anticipate. Now, this is not playful fighting. This was actually kind of, for me, a little unnerving, because I really was afraid that one of these wolves was going to get hurt really bad. You could see that piece of wood laying in the background there against that dead tree, or that dead shrub. And it did get nasty for a while. Eventually things calmed down. You get a picture of one with this nice arch from a part of a tree. I wish that stick wasn't there, and I'm not a Photoshop guy usually, so I did not Photoshop it out, but that is reality. That is what it was. But it's such a beautiful animal. And the next image after this one will be images taken with the 180 to 600. And I think I might have mentioned on the live stream that when you're photographing basically something that doesn't have a lot of contrast, I mean, it is mostly a reddish brown, a little bit of white, and you have thick eyebrows, and the eyes are set back a little bit. You may have to stop down your lens at least one stop, because lots of times, you're just not getting the eye and the eyebrows in focus. The eye might be in focus, the eyebrows might be a little out of focus. And so give yourself a little bit of latitude, if you can, to stop down a little bit more, or realize there is a reason in this case why you're not shooting single frame, because you may take a burst of 6 shots and 3 of them might have eyebrows that are soft, and the other 3 might be absolutely perfect. So you're going to throw away a fair amount of shots just because you're trying to get the face area perfect. And sometimes you get looked at by these animals in a way that you think they're eyeballing you like you're going to be their next meal. So they do give you a look at times that they're not a dog, because there was one image in there where it winked at me. It had one eye closed, and I'm like, okay, you're winking at me, and then the next thing you know, I see the teeth looking at me, and I'm like, okay. You're like, yeah, I want you. So we're going to finish this up with a very short video clip, and I'll just reiterate what I said in the introduction to this piece. And that is, if you're in the neck of the woods down here, if you're in Myrtle Beach vacationing, and I was way off. I said, like 1 million people come down here. No, 20 million people come to Myrtle Beach to vacation. 20 million people. So, yeah, support your parks, support the park system, support Brookgreen Gardens. See these places. It's really worthwhile, and they can use your support, and you're helping provide a habitat for these endangered wolves. Thank you for watching my channel. I really appreciate it. Please give me a like and leave a comment, pro or con. Just please be respectful. And if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And remember my motto: enjoy life, capture some of it, get out there and get some of your best images, irregardless of the genre that you choose to shoot. Take care, and God bless.